Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for June the 21st. Today, we are reading together here in Joshua chapter 20 and also Joshua chapter 21, which concern the cities given for Levites and the cities of refuge. This is material that we've already discussed in more detail as we've been looking throughout the Pentateuch. So we're not going to do a whole rehashing of these texts, but we'll reference the original text that these issues do turn up in, so that you can go and read that if you would so desire. Thanks so much for taking some time to read along with me today. Let me get the text up on the screen, and we'll get to reading here in Joshua 20 and Joshua 21. Joshua 20 and Joshua 21. Then Yahweh spoke to Joshua, "Tell the Israelites, select your cities of refuge as I instructed you through Moses, so that a person who kills someone unintentionally or accidentally may flee there. These will be your refuge from the avenger of blood. When someone flees to one of these cities, stands at the entrance of the city gate, and states his case before the elders of that city, they are to bring him into the city and give him a place to live among them. And if the avenger of blood pursues him, they must not hand the one who committed manslaughter over to him, for he killed his neighbor accidentally and did not hate him beforehand. He is to stay in that city until he stands trial before the assembly and until the death of the high priest serving at that time. Then the one who committed manslaughter may return to his home, to his own city from which he fled." So they designated Kedesh in the hill country of Naphtali in Galilee, Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah. Across the Jordan, east of Jericho, they selected Bezer on the wilderness plateau from Reuben's tribe, Ramoth in Gilead from Gad's tribe, and Golan in Bashan from Manasseh's tribe. These are the cities appointed for all the Israelites and the aliens residing among them, so that anyone who kills a person unintentionally may flee there and not die at the hand of the avenger of blood until he stands before the assembly. The Levite family heads approached the priest Eleazar, Joshua son of Nun, and the family heads of the Israelite tribes at Shiloh in the land of Canaan. They told them, "Yahweh commanded through Moses that we be given cities to live in, with their pasture lands for our livestock." So the Israelites, by Yahweh's command, gave the Levites these cities with their pasture lands from their inheritance. The lot came out for the Kohathite clans. The Levites, who were the descendants of the priest Aaron, received 13 cities by lot from the tribes of Judah, Simeon, and Benjamin. The remaining descendants of Kohath received 10 cities by lot from the from the clans of the tribes of Ephraim, Dan, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Gershon's descendants received 13 cities by lot from the clans of the tribes of Issachar, Asher, Naphtali, and half the tribe of Manasseh in Bashan. Merari's descendants received 12 cities for their clans from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Zebulun. The Israelites gave these cities with their pasture lands around them to the Levites by lot, as Yahweh had commanded through Moses. The Israelites gave these cities by name from the tribes of the descendants of Judah and Simeon to the descendants of Aaron from the Kohathite clans of the Levites, because they received the first lots. They gave them Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the son of Enoch, with its surrounding pasture lands in the hill country of Judah. But they gave the fields and settlements of the city to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, as his possession. They gave to the descendants of the priest Aaron Hebron, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture land, Libnah with its pasture lands, Jetur with its pasture lands, Eshtemoa with its pasture lands, Holon with its pasture lands, Debir with its pasture lands, Ain with its pasture lands, Juttah with its pasture lands, and Beth Shemesh with its pasture lands, 9 cities from these 2 tribes. From the tribe of Benjamin, they gave Gibeon with its pasture lands, Geba with its pasture lands, Anathoth with its pasture lands, and Almon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. All 13 cities with their pasture lands were for the priests, the descendants of Aaron. The allotted cities to the remaining clans of Kohath's descendants, who were Levites, came from the tribe of Ephraim. the Israelites gave them Shechem, the city of refuge, for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands in the hill country of Ephraim, Gezer with its pasture lands, Kibzaim with its pasture lands, and Beth Horon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Dan, they gave Elteke with its pasture lands, Gibbethon with its pasture lands, Aijalon with its pasture lands, and Gath Rimmon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the half tribe of Manasseh, they gave Taanach with its pasture lands, and Gath Rimmon with its pasture lands, 2 cities. All 10 cities with their pasture lands were for the clans of Kohath's descendants. From the half tribe of Manasseh, they gave to the descendants of Gershon, who were of the Levite clans, Golan, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands in Bashan, and Beesh Terah with its pasture lands, 2 cities. From the tribe of Issachar, they gave Kishion with its pasture lands, Dabaroth with its pasture lands, Jarmuth with its pasture lands, and En Ganim with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Asher, they gave Mishal with its pasture lands, Abdon with its pasture lands, Helkath with its pasture lands, and Rehob with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Naphtali, they gave Kedesh in Galilee, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands, Hamoth Dor with its pasture lands, and Karton with its pasture lands, 3 cities. All 13 cities with its pasture lands were for the Gershonites by their clans. From the tribe of Zebulun, they gave to the clans of the descendants of Merari, who were the remaining Levites, Jokneam with its pasture lands, Karta with its pasture lands, Dimnah with its pasture lands, and Nahalal with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Reuben, they gave Bezer with its pasture land, Jazah with its pasture lands, Kedemoth with its pasture lands, and Mephaath with its pasture lands, 4 cities. From the tribe of Gad, they gave Ramoth in Gilead, the city of refuge for the one who commits manslaughter, with its pasture lands, Nahanaim with its pasture lands, Heshbon with its pasture lands, and Jazer with its pasture lands, 4 cities in all. All 12 cities were allotted to the clans of Merari descendants, or to the clans of Merari's descendants, the remaining Levite clans. Within the Israelite possession, there were 48 cities in all with their pasture lands for the Levites. Each of these cities had its own surrounding pasture lands. This was true for all the cities. So Yahweh gave all the land he had sworn to get, so Yahweh gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give their descendants, and they took possession of it and settled there. Yahweh gave them rest on every side according to all he had sworn to their ancestors. None of their enemies were able to stand against them, for Yahweh handed over all their enemies to them. None of the good promises Yahweh had made to the house of Israel failed. Everything was fulfilled. And that is Joshua chapters 20 and 21. So to finish up this section, which is talking about the allotment of the lands, remember we go back to chapter 13 and we noticed how there was this important or that this section 13 through 21 might not sound all that important to us, but it was especially important to the Israelites, considering this was the fulfillment of God's promises. And in fact, at the end of chapter 21, that's exactly what is stressed by the author, that everything that Yahweh had promised them came to pass. So there was nothing that Yahweh had promised that he had not fulfilled. Now, we need to recognize that there were some times that we've seen throughout the reading where the people failed, where they failed to do the work that Yahweh had instructed them to do. But that's not a failure on God's part. That's a failure on their part to either see the importance of doing this work or to have the confidence in God that the work could be done. Remember that Caleb is the one who, whenever I believe it was the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, whenever they came to Joshua and said, hey, we need more land, and because we've been blessed a lot, we've been blessed greatly by Yahweh. And he said, well, here, take this land, go in there, get rid of the trees and take this land. They said, oh, well, the people that are in that land, they said it's the let's see here, all the Canaanites that are here, they have iron chariots. You know, the Perizzites and the Rephaim, they're here and they have iron chariots. We can't do that. And Joshua just says, Joshua just says, you know what? Do it anyways. Because if you've been blessed as great as you say you have been, then you know Yahweh's going to be with you. Go and take the land. You will be able to take them. So that's really what we need to recognize from this section in 13 through 21 is this is Yahweh fully, completely, with no ifs, ands, or buts, fulfilling everything that he had sworn to this people and to their ancestors. So that's really the main point I want us to take away, concluding here in chapters 13 through 21. But also just note some of the specific details from this section is that we have here the cities of refuge. You can read more about that in Numbers 35 and verses 9 through 34. You can go back to our reading in Numbers chapter 35. It had been, I don't know, a couple of months ago. We were probably in that text. There's also a little bit more additional detail given in Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verses 1 through 13, but this is pertaining to the issue of manslaughter, not murder. Murder was a capital offense. That's where the death penalty would be carried out. But if there was legitimate, accidental, unintentional taking of human life, if there's accidental killing, then these individuals had the opportunity to go to these places, to these cities that were specifically designated to gain refuge, because the idea was that whenever blood was shed, there had to be blood that was given in return. So these families then would appoint for themselves these individuals who would be the avengers of blood, where whenever blood was spilt, blood must be taken back. That was his job. That was his responsibility. But if they go as Yahweh designated to these cities of refuge, then they would be able to be safe there and to stand in this city and to be protected by those who live there. So this is the designation of these cities. And then in chapter 21, we also see something similar to what we saw. Let's see here. Back in chapter, let's see here. What chapter was? Back in chapter 17, where the daughters of Zelophehad came to Joshua and Eleazar and the leaders and said, hey, we were promised by Moses that we would be given land, even though we're not males. So please give us that. Here we have the Levites in the same kind of way coming and saying, hey, Yahweh promises these things. We believe that he will keep his promise. We would like for you to fulfill that promise as well by giving us the land. And we see that being done, that these three clans of the Levites, the Kohathites, the Gershonites, and the Merarites, that they were given the land that God promised them that they would have. Ends up being about 48 cities in all. Because remember, they did not gain a specific inheritance from the land. That wasn't given to them. So Yahweh instead is going to give them individual cities within the place that really spread all throughout the land. Within Israel and such. If you have any questions or comments about this text, please feel free to leave that below in the comments section. I'd love to have a discussion with you about these texts if I can. So please feel free to leave those below again. Hope you'll tune in tomorrow for our reading from, we'll be in, let me double check here, make sure we will be in Joshua chapter 22. Let me see here. Is this? Oh, yes, I forgot I did not update this because I was on the tablet or the iPad yesterday. So today's reading on the 21st should have been, we're basically moving everything up a day. So today's reading was in 2021. Tomorrow, our reading is going to be in 22. We'll be in chapter 22 tomorrow, reading about the eastern tribes that were on the eastern side of the Jordan, them returning home, and an almost disaster that is thankfully avoided early on in the settling of the land. So we'll read about that tomorrow. Let me wish a happy birthday as well to little Miss Vivian Boyd. It is her birthday today. Hope she has a very happy birthday, and hope you'll wish her a happy birthday tonight as we gather together for our Bible studies at 7 p.m. Hope to see you there, and hope you'll tune in again tomorrow as we're reading together from Joshua chapter 22. Take care, and God bless.